in the image. You know what I'm saying? When you come in the image, man, they built around you. Because whatever you kicking, y'all about to see the whole world built around my cosmology. Watch the fusion and friction. They're gonna be like, oh, that's what we've been saying. It's about to be like, then they're about to start throwing up other stuff like it came out years ago to make it seem like it came. But they've been summoning me for eons though, so you can't get away from it. And then we didn't hear you talking about that 10 years ago, and then why all of a sudden it's being presented now? No, we won. God's children won. We won. Y'all took too long. Y'all took too long to make something new. You know what I'm saying? Y'all took too long to the point that you can't make nothing new. You either got to speak the truth at this point because they just been using shit to rock y'all to sleep. And now that your ass is rocked to sleep and shit like that, you ain't got no goddamn common sense. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, they've been rocking us to sleep for a long time with the esoteric golems and the light forms and shit like that. And if you go on Google, that's all you're going to see. How they made Star Wars, how they made Star Trek. You know what I'm saying? How they made Space Invaders. You know what I'm saying? How they made He-Man. You know what I'm saying? All those cartoons, how they made G.I. Joe. The Fee, Fi, Fo, Fee, Thumb. You know what I'm saying? And Jolly Green Giant, Jack and the Beanstalk, everything. All of these is like allegories to the foods we eat, our bodies, our body parts, the spirituality we go through inside of us when we're trying to control our mind and shit like that as a spirit, not being the goddamn mind and thinking that your spirit is the mind, all kind of flunked out of that shit. But y'all don't be peeping game. This right here is just them filling in what's unseen and creating an allegory story to help you understand it. You know what I'm saying? So it's a clock. As below, but as above is each water cycle. We got our clock, our water cycle, 24 hours. We got the clock around us, right? We'll call that the Mercury time. We got the other water cycle around us. That's the Venus time. The other water cycle around that. That's the Mars time, the water cycle around that, Jupiter. And then we got the water cycle around that, Saturn. And then we're in the water cycle all the way in the middle. So Saturn is the most outer layer of all of us being in one water. This is just one water cycle. See what I'm saying? But water got different waves. I told you, the same way stars is created is the same way rivers and seas is created. So we're in 7 seas. We're sons and daughters of the seas, bitch. What, you thought you was about to go to your religion or spirituality and think that they wasn't talking about what I'm talking about? Yeah, bitch, that's why they use these words. That's why the water's above, the water's below. That's why they use these words. The fuck? Oh, shit. And then for the most part, boom. This our water cycle, 24 hours. Then we make the rays be Mercury. Then the next one is Venus, right? So we'll see when that fusion and friction happened from our distance. We made a hypothetical on when that fusion and friction happens from our perspective, based upon calculating when the fusion and friction happened in our perspective with the body of water we're closest to, we're within the masculine, and we're inside this atmosphere. That'd be the feminine. This water cycle would be masculine because that's the one outside of us, but we're inside of it. You know what I'm saying? But y'all looking at it like this is a star floating. No, it's just water cycles, and whatever light being emitted is the interactions of the water cycles. You get it? So the only way you're able to see a light anyway, because you're inside of a water cycle. So if you was outside the atmosphere in the water cycle that's crashing with our water cycle that we were within, that we call stars, right? If you outside of that, you won't see no light crashing and sparking unless you're closer to another body of water. See what I'm saying? So we're making hypotheticals based upon, but you're only able to see it if you're in an atmosphere. It's not out there. You get what I'm saying? So for the most part, when you make a hypothetical, you would track Venus 2 houses back because they know that the sun, aka when our light spark, we experience a transition every 2 hours. It moving a house. So then this water cycle, we'll say that spark is a little slower. So that one arrives at 4 a.m. You know what I'm saying? In the house of the 12th house, Pisces. Then you got then you got the Mars one. That arrives at 2 a.m. or whatever the fuck, how they fucking call it and shit like that. All the way to the, you get to it just calculating the water cycle. You know what I'm saying? And Saturn is the highest cycle. You know what I'm saying? We're in. That's why you're able to create a body, because all these waters crushing in on themselves with fusion and friction, your mind and your gem is born. You know what I'm saying? So as a spirit, you're just naked. You're no thing. Once you become aware, you create a piece of that water and you create your bubble out of that awareness as your own specific mind. And now that's all of our waters together. Teamwork makes the dream work. And then for the most part, when you come down into the cycle from Saturn down to the where we at right now, Malkuth, you crystallize. That's your mind condensing, making organs, Malkuth. Your individual Earth and your awareness was a piece of part of gold sand or a periodic table. Teamwork makes the dream work. When that manifested, as a spirit, we create awareness. And then we take pieces of that to make our own mind. That awareness is what we all do as teamwork makes the dream work to create the whole world. And when we take pieces of the one that we gave our piece of the footprints of the sand, that becomes our own mind in that world. And then all that consciousness waters clash, have sex. That's what clashing is: fusion and friction, imagination, desire, light shift rays. And then when we do that as a spirit, controlling those mental chakras as a cycle that we're going in as an accumulation, we all condense ourselves and create organs out of that. So we are the gem. We are the star. We are, you see what I'm saying? We are the Jedis. We are the Mega Man. You know what I'm saying? And all this motherfucking shit. Thanks so much for the donation. I ran on person. I appreciate that from the bottom of my heart. Real shit. So that's basically what it's talking. That's esoteric astrology. And that's how you know the sun and the moon is just reflections. The sun is a light that got emitted, and the light that got emitted casts a reflection, and both that light that got emitted and the reflection takes the shape and form of our atmosphere that we inside of. You know what I'm saying? From top to bottom, left to right, which is we're small, so we experience the transition of it. So we experience that fluid in many different transitions, and we just call it daytime, nighttime, air, and what it manifests and condenses and cool off to be Earth getting and crystallizing out of it. That's what a star is. You know what I'm saying? So I don't even know what Phil Valentine was talking about when he said stars is in water. No, stars are water. Your body is made out of whatever the fuck that they calling this shit. This is it. Not no stars be anything in it is the fleshly fluid and shit that's accumulating from it and shit like that. But the stars is the water itself. See, he might get confused because he still got the Western Hemisphere knowledge based on what he thinks stars is. So since you would think a star is something floating out there, and since you would hear somebody like me say everything is water, you would come with a dumb conclusion like stars is inside water. No, the water itself is the star, and with light ain't no star. Light don't have no shape. The fusion and friction of water produces what we call that light that's being emitted. And don't get lost in the light, because you would think that's something floating, and you would think that's a star, and you would think that's something inside water or some float that ass shit, where that itself get produced from water, and that's not the star. It's just light. It's just lostness. It's just us condensing ourselves. It's just us materializing. It's just, that's it. And I said from a mental and a physical. But you the star, period itself. The water, the consciousness, your thoughts and feelings. When you clash a thought, once you make a mind and clash a thought and feeling together, you emit a light and imagination. That's not you. That's just how you see yourself. See what I'm saying? So the spirit create a mind, and a mind, you as a spirit make these things crash to make things out of them, like sex, the joining of two energies, masculine, feminine, man, woman, thought, feeling. And then when thought, emotion, and then when you crash them together, it produces a child, the image that you like to see yourself. Now that image ain't you, but it's something you strive to be. You strive to be that character, those characteristics. And when we do a teamwork makes the dream work, that bends in on itself and become organs that we all can experience similar traits amongst each other with our own individual aspects of doing those similar traits amongst each other. That's real esoteric knowledge. Niggas be getting they shit from books and shit like that and don't even go outside and let God teach them. They let a man teach them, and then they go have a man's interpretation on how to go outside and look at things. That's wrong. You go outside first and let God show you. Then you would have never came up with no dumbass shit talking about the spirit is the breath. Even if somebody taught you that 2,000 years ago and you just dumb, you would have understood that the breath is a form that a spirit can take. And so that'll take you into some more God knowledge. Humans must have always been lost, always trying to attach to ourselves the creators and blame it on something that we created. So every time we experience something that's invisible next, we call that the responsible for us. So as soon as it was lightning, oh, that's the spirit. As soon as it was breath, oh, that's the spirit. As soon as something else invisible come, oh, that's the spirit. You know what I'm saying? And people always trying to call the spirit something, and your spirit is just your space. And I hate to even call it that because space got baggage on it. But it's the closest word that y'all lost in now that represents your spirit. No thing. It's not even something. It's no thing. And the moment you became aware, that's the something. And you're inside of that now as an individual solo spirit being aware of itself. You know what I'm saying? That's a soul. So once you create that awareness, that's your halo. That's your first mind, your first body over your soul. And then therefore that can accumulate and become a physical form and going into parents in geographical locations and shit. But without that first form, you don't exist. You're just no thing. But when you create a form, you are aware that you created something because that something is what separates your space from another spirit space, whether it's aware or not doing the same thing. So this lets you know, damn, whatever you are is mysterious and it's not even no thing. And you need that thing you created to even know that you are something. So we hold on to these awarenesses, and these awarenesses is what manifests as water and energy. And when we fuck in the mind, it come together as accumulation, density. So where we at spiritually, we create mental forms to relate to each other. And then by default, that accumulate as density. And then we all create similar forms and similar worlds to represent our individual spirits inside of. There is no deeper science. There is no deeper occult, especially if you're trying to get into that flunked out ass dumb Jesuit, Rosicrucian, Masonry and shit. Like, y'all always be trying to give people credit they don't need. Y'all think that when you get into their discoveries or something like that, you're discovering something spooky or something like that. It's the most dumbest surface level shit that they're just giving importance to. And since they was allowed to run the world because all y'all are sheep and not able to think clear enough, this would allows them to think that it's more important or more intelligent than what it actually is. And it's all stupid shit. It's all star formation. The moment you know how to live out your life down here, the way the stars is lining out and come up with all the mathematical precisions, okay, you're able to write a hieroglyphics and make a language and number system. And anything after that is sheep-minded. All these other people in these denominations, all these other people say, in Oz, you know, in this Bible scripture, this number leads to 27. If you don't even understand the starting point, stop going around teaching people dumb shit because you in Oz, because you don't understand how a person could create a literature and a civilization. Like, you stupid. It's very simple once you understand as above, so below. So when you get these later texts, a lot of these later texts prevent you from learning the things that they built these texts on. Like, a lot of these texts is built on as above, so below correspondences, astronomy and astrology, and different terminologies for people to understand it in the best way that they can, have a sheep-minded. A lot of people that came after the fact, right, and used it since people don't want to use their own mind and still be fools, and you could put $1 million in someone's lap just for them to still be stupid. Then they started to put things in Bibles with the Jewish witchcraft, like, yeah, don't get into astrology, don't get in necromancy, right? Because these are the things that they built that on. The whole book is built on summoning the dead, knowing each specific week, time, and day, which became holy days and shit like that, and holidays, because they was deifying different transitions of the sun and moon and calling it the spirit of something, since they came up with the intellectual property to run the world. And whatever they came up with, this is what the whole sheep mind is ran by right now. And when they don't like how the rulers is running them, they take their language and their meanings and come up with denominations and shit and dumbass shit that they'll never even get no liberation out of. But at the same time, that's what the shadow government do to run the world, not them stealing something. They came up with that whole concept. So it's like dropping a flag. Everywhere you see a pyramid, that's like X marks the spot. That rulership mentality been there. Not no two countries being very separate and coming up with similar ideas, and just so happened that civilization got a flag and that civilization got a flag. No, somebody sat back and said, this is how we need to do things. And they came up with the concept of flag before there was any war over flags or over any land. This is a concept of a rulership that motherfuckers is upholding based on oral tradition. And if you don't understand oral tradition, it's because you got a bias. You're either lost within a religion, entertainment, education, business, or politics. So your bias wouldn't allow you to even see things from a perspective of a person who run a large corporation, which is countries and things of that nature. You only know what the knowledge been given to you, and based on how they taught you what it means to learn, what it means to understand curriculum, what it means to be intellectual. So when they provide that to you, it's still within the limits and the basis of their mind frame of how they built the nation. So you don't have no outside thought on how to perceive what's actually going on around you. You only know how to utilize the things that you complain about and find things in it as aspects to figure out that this is what we need to be helped. And for the most part, all of that is made up if you understand the occult mind of an individual that run the whole world from individuals. You know what I'm saying? And that's why religious people can't never see the truth, because they're so rooted in just one of the biases, the religious aspect. So based upon what they was taught in that aspect, they're so lost and rooted in that, they're not even able to see witchcraft being practiced on them while saying someone else is possessed. They're not even able to see how they're possessed, right? For example, just for the sake of someone creating a language with a word for me and you can know what we're talking about once we say it, that's a possession. So when you take that to a spiritual perspective, this is how you could possess a person's soul, where you give them not only terms and agreements we can do as far as language physically, but also give them allegories from a masonry concept. That's how you know it got Mason practice in it, where I could give a frame of thought from a physical representation on how it can harm you mentally, right? And it's put people on guilt trips and shit. This is what the Jews used to do to the old rulers and shit to drive them crazy for them to kill themselves, like Pontius Pilate and shit. Jesus was a golem, a grimoire. You see what I'm saying? Not a person. So for the most part, when you're into it in that aspect and stuff like that, right? You could set a person on a path so they end up being possessed. And if you are the more superior spirit, you can make them believe whatever path you set them on. And the more you can make them believe it, the more that they're willing to die or cast stones or separate from their own family and things of that nature to get that done. And then that lets you know that it's demonic at that point. You see what I'm saying? And this is what a lot of times that people be wrapped up in. So it can become very demonic and things where you're possessed based upon a word, or you're possessed based upon energy in some way, where you're not yourself. And when you're not yourself, this is when you end up coming across as possessed. Now, a religious person may sit there and say that I am myself, but when they're expressing it, they're coming in the name of something else. They're trying to prove something to somebody else. So this is a person that's possessed, and they're using possessed tactics like words, logic, to throw someone else under a spell, aka belief, so that person can live in the way that this individual narcissistic, egotistical, religious ass person, theologian mind can feel good about themselves, like they're doing something for their Lucifer or their devil that love being called God. And it don't go no further than that. It's not like actually anything that they're spewing have anything to do with actual God or existence. So keep that in mind also. And this is why they're going to hell. And their reasons to judge me or judge anyone else is a figment of their own imagination that have been developed from a group of Masons and Jesuits who created the concept of deifying and giving titles to mind forms. And Plato and them understood that. But religious people argue against Plato and shit like that and think that people before Plato was talking about something different. So it's like retarded. It's just a person so lost in their bias, they're in a mental hell. And that mental hell gonna manifest physically, but you chose to go there your goddamn self. So y'all got a peep game. The whole world is goddamn lost. Don't listen to nobody talk about going back to damn no Kemet, no Pan-African shit. That's people who trying to tell you to go back to slavery. You know what I'm saying? Egypt means slavery. So the Mesopotamians came over the waters and gave them deities to worship from fire, water, air, and earth. Now, Egyptian turned into polytheism because the Egyptian land was built off polytheism. But they did not originate polytheism. You could argue all you want that polytheism was everywhere. You sound like a Christian, just like anybody else to me, that two countries could be in different locations, or two groups of people could be in different locations, but we just somehow come up with the same idea. That's bullshit. You got the religious mind. You just think you don't. If a motherfucker created a system and you see that in other areas, the motherfuckers who created that shit brought that to the other areas. That's why motherfuckers complaining about invasion all the time. Because y'all didn't only get invaded physically. Y'all got invaded spiritually. And y'all somewhere trying to claim when y'all first got invaded, like when y'all got invaded, y'all had power. Y'all didn't have power. You got invaded spiritually. And then y'all took their gods and claimed that these gods need to help y'all more or some shit like that now. It's like stupid. Because that's basically what you hear when you come out of a person that worship Egypt or Kemet or some shit like that. That's basically what they saying. And shit like, oh, we was the gods back then, and we was this, that, and third. Somebody gave y'all that knowledge to talk about that because y'all was slaves. Y'all was somewhere in the huts running because y'all didn't want to get killed or something like that, and y'all was tired of being slaves. So y'all came up with dumbass shit like, I'ma throw a spell on you or some shit like that. Bitch, that don't work for you. That worked for us if we came created the hieroglyphics and shit. And the colpult or whatever the fuck they call that in the Mesopotamian and shit. Bitch, if I came and rule the world with signs and symbols and you don't like how we rule it, you gonna take our language and shit like that and pray to these things in your own way and create your own little denomination names. And then y'all so sheep and weak spiritually, y'all gonna make up some shit to do with some shit we gave y'all that we created. Y'all gonna make up some shit that it can do something for y'all that it can't do. So this was the creation of voodoo and hex, and I'ma throw a curse. Y'all ever seen a Hebrew Israelite on a corner or something like that, and they be trying to throw curses on people and shit like that? Man, that's a sheep mind. That's people who got ruled way back in Egypt, and since they ain't got no power by the people who gave them a language and told them to build the pyramids and shit like that, the motherfuckers who started to become the Malcolm X's back then was like, I think that God should be this, that, and the third. So the best they can do with the power was say, well, I'm gonna throw a curse on you, and that God you claim we all worship is gonna make sure you die, and I'm gonna throw it. That's the best the weak ass spirits can do. It ain't like we can prove any of this shit in the day's time, bitch. Yo, slave-minded ass bitch. That's the best they can do, though. Oh, I'm gonna throw a curse on you. You gonna die. That's the best you can use they gods to work for you for. And y'all do that in today's time. You can see everybody do that in today's time. Y'all all come from the slave minds that they brought y'all up under. You know what I'm saying? Y'all still do it. When your grandma needs you to do something, but she know that you don't really respect her, she'll use Jesus real quick. Well, Jesus told me in my dream that this, that, and the third, all of it was a way of convincing you to be guilty and listen to the slave at the moment. Listen to the sheep mind that ain't getting nothing from the government at the moment, the gods at the moment. And I said, that's it. I don't really go no further than that. They got y'all trained with the same mind. Y'all be looking at it like it's a history book. They looking at it like it's a witchcraft book. These words means thoughts and feelings that leads to outcomes. And when we see people expressing these things, just dumb as hell, wandering around, they just low-hanging fruit. You know what I'm saying? So that's how they look at it. They don't look at it like y'all. They don't look at black, white, and all that shit as race. They look at that like natures and shit like that. So you could be white and act black to them. To them, it's because you act extra emotional. You too much in your right brain chakras. And if you act white, you too much in your left brain chakras. It ain't got nothing to do with race. So you could be a brown person, an Indian, a black person, and the moment you start talking extremely logical, you might have somebody around you say, you ain't got no slang, you ain't got no swag, or you sound white. And they just train y'all brains in that. But behind closed doors, the shadow government not even looking at that as race. That whole context is a cult. When you think about crystals and gems and light magic, white magic, dark magic, black magic, these are something that we practice before we called animals beasts, before we called the actual sky the sky. We was calling things inside of us heavens and locations and objects. Like, it started there first. You could have been the most whitest priest in the world, but been a shadow priest, be a black priest. Some flunked that ass Kemet follower will read a text in today's time and be like, see, priests back in the days was black people. Bitch, you Western hemisphere out. A black priest is a person who know how to deal with Lord desires. So anytime you go to any priest, no matter what they are, you go to your Catholic church and go talk to the goddamn what's the dude, not the priest, but the other motherfucker that be on the little window. And you can go talk to him and shit like that. 9 times out of 10, you only talking to him because you think he can help you out of some low ass flunked out emotion, some Hebrew emotion. Hebrew, he below the horizon, you. You know what I'm saying? So for the most part, it's the Passover. When things go to 6 p.m. or when things go to fall and motherfucker winter, as above. But as below, anytime you in your lower horizon, your lower right brain chakras, you can't get out your flunked out ass emotions because you sheep-minded. You know what I'm saying? So that's what it means when you a Hebrew Israelite. Israelite just means being born up under the sun and the moonlight. I'm saying Isis, the moon, Ra, the sun. Lights. They thought they was lights. So when you was born over there, that's what they was calling humans, Israelites. Then they had the ones who was given the rightful thoughts and or whatever like that and shit. So the Hebrews who didn't know how to think like that, they became Hebrew Israelites. Motherfuckers who was flunked out under their desires, up under the holy desires, up under the temple, aka Africa, as an allegory to what we was calling our temple first, our head space. Jerusalem, we was calling our heart space first. Sheol, we was calling our dick and pussy space first. So any allegory you hear about Abraham bosom or whatever like that, it's just a whole bunch of spirits that's lost in their lower desires, or they Gentiles or some shit, aka becoming the cells that we built to become dicks and pussies. When you become the cells that become the heart, this when you talk about the Bible in the Bible spots of the heart space, the house of the Lord, or other fucking shit and things of that nature. And when you talk about the king of Israel or Jacob becoming Israel or things of that nature, you're talking about the chakras that we create that bend in and become the blood cells and the organs of the brain and the pineal gland and other motherfucking things of that nature. That's the as above, so below context. So it's a clock. Your clock as the man microosm is you got 6 a.m. This right here. So this is where you give birth to an idea, because it's on the east of your heart space. So it has to be something you care about. And it's going to be on your universal thought, Mercury, right? So it's going to be something you analyze about. So it's almost going to be attached to a Venus, your morning light, your Lucifer, right? So before 6 a.m., you give a rise to that, then it becomes the fusion and friction of an imagination of what you want to express to the world. So it's like you waking up as below, but as above, you get ready to manifest an idea or creative aspect. Now, when you take that 6 as above, so below, it's the same as the clock. As you take your 6, but this is the equilibrium that I'm speaking about right now. The correspondence is as below, your body area, as above, the way that the stars, and then the sun, how they calculated the transition, and then the equilibrium, how it relates to you spiritually. You always got to bring it to a 3. When you create an idea, you create that sun right here on the east, right? Now, it's 6 a.m. in the morning right there for your idea, no matter what time externally, but this is how we make an allegory to what we're representing to if we do it at the right time. Deep occult knowledge. Now, look, boom. Then once you give a rise to that, right, you want to develop more ideas, make that smear, make that more bright. So as a spirit, you inside of it, giving it many ideas to make that mind more brighter, make that womb more bigger, that woman, that mason, whatever the fuck you want to call it. Now that light, once it get illuminated, right, you're putting it up in time. Now, this is your 12 p.m. This is your Cancer. So this is like Noah's Ark right here from the heart space. Now, once you rise it up here, that's your first spectrum of your you. So that's your imagination that you're getting ready to express from your crown chakra, aka or your throat chakra, intellectual wise, for people to know where you're coming from. Now, if you got heavy density thoughts, your Noah's Ark is weak. All your beasts, the men and women, each thought and feeling of all your Lord desires is too heavy. If they're light, it's going to be bright. It's going to, whatever you express, look like it has potential, if it's an idea. So that's your first part to your horizon, from your 6 a.m. to your 12 p.m. Aries to Cancer. So anytime you get too lost into the external world and you developed an idea and it didn't quite rise all the weights that you can calculate it to express it, anytime you come around back to it, you find yourself having to look like this to remember what you was thinking about. Like you find yourself always having to do this, or always, because you're looking at it before you already gave birth to it and you already pondered on it a little bit for it to be right here, but you haven't got the comfortability thoughts and feelings and women and Solomon, millions of females and thoughts and allegories to it for it to fully rise up here so you can feel comfortable with expressing it to others. So every now and then you start to conversate with someone and then you get reminded that, oh yeah, this is what my mind was on. You will look where that's at. It's still floating there. It ain't get all the way to 12 p.m. yet. It's still floating somewhere past between 6 a.m. and 10 p.m. I mean 10 a.m. 8 a.m. and 10 a.m. before 12 p.m. See what I'm saying? Because 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. is Aries hours. 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. is Taurus hours. 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. is Gemini hours. And then 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. is Cancer hours. You know what I'm saying? So with the AMs, and then you got the moon mansions, right? Because it's the as below. You got the moon mansions. It go to every sign too. So once you get all the way at 24 hours, that's 12 houses. Aries through Pisces. But then you got the moon mansions, the minutes, the seconds, the many females, right? So 6 a.m. to 8 a.m., right, is motherfucking Aries transition for the sun, tracking Horus. But let's say 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. is still in Aries, but then you got the moon cycles, the minutes and the seconds, right? So from 6 a.m. to 6:10, That's sun in Aries, but the moon track the minutes in a second. The moon in Aries. From 8:10 to 8:20, moon in Taurus. Sun still in Aries. From 8:20 to 8:30, right? That AM, that's the moon being in Gemini. 8:30, 8:40, moon in Cancer. 8:40, 8:50, moon in goddamn Leo. 8:50, 8:60, 8:50 to 7 a.m. in the morning. That's the moon being in goddamn it Virgo, right? Now, and the sun is moving on to the second hour of still being in Aries. Then 7 a.m. to 7:10, that's the moon being in Libra, sun in Aries. 7:10 to 7:20, that's the moon being in Scorpio. 7:20 to 7:30, Sagittarius. 7:40 to 7:50, Capricorn. 7:50 to motherfucking oh shit, did I miss one? Yeah, 7:10. 7 a.m. to 7:10, Libra. 7:10 to 7:20, Scorpio. There we go. 7:20 to 7:30, Sag. 7:30 to 7:40, Capricorn. 7:40 to 7:50 a.m., Aquarius. And 7:50 a.m. to 8 a.m., right? Pisces. And now 8 a.m. now, sun is in Taurus. And then the moon cycle, minutes and seconds, start all over again, back in Aries. You see what I'm saying? So that's how they made the military clock and our clock, for us to know the time of the day, for them to give a Bible to you and tell you, God, you wouldn't know the time of the day, so they can rule you, and for you could go tell everybody, oh, we don't know the time of the day, and they can play God and give you the time of the day, and now you got a birthday, a holiday, a calendar, a day you get up and celebrate, and then you make allegories of why you can still celebrate holidays, but you religious. You ain't shit. You don't know what you lost in, because you don't know nothing. And a lot of these religious people, how you religious if you into one religion? You just a demon. If you're religious, you have to be in all the religions as a study, not as a belief. So you don't believe in nothing. You just believe all these things. You could believe that someone could believe in something. That's a different type of knowledge going on right there. It ain't attaching. It ain't attaching to you though. A lot of these Christians and shit, they don't know nothing else but about Christianity. And they be sitting there trying to debate Hebrews and Israelites and Muslims and Unitarians. It sounds stupid as fuck. It sounds dumber than them. Know what I'm saying? Where fuck your God, we need to get into the context of monotheism and polytheism and who sat back and created that concept of why it's even seen that way in the first place. We need to talk about that. That's why a lot of y'all going to hell. Because y'all don't even talk about the simple shit. Y'all just follow anything and think that you could piggyback on it and add your own beliefs to it. Or with me, no such thing as laws or denominations. That's it. All y'all are demons that cling on to a grouping if it all can cater to y'all lies that y'all lie to each other about, and desires and building the world and going to heaven and shit. Like, y'all just lost. You really don't go no further than that.